today. Something that you never knew at all. Who would have known that a lesbian woman would have HIV? Who would have known that violence is the same, whether it's in lesbian relationships or heterosexual relationships? Who would have known that my fellow lesbian, how can I have my fellow interesting. So maybe in that three comments, listen. 3 comments. Anyone want to say something? Josh, yes?
I'm missing the same thing. Rona as organizations our members because it's last week to me that I don't know if by getting any degree legalization because they I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah.
Last day, Harry go ahead, but they were really what they were in Yarona to that's how people label us. I think what I what the self-security that's the cream, right? And then who legalize like what I'm going to go cover the manana our members are aware of that. And I can have there are one more repeated about the
Any other comments?
Hey, we told him, can something maybe honey, Pocasimo, or Sisharasubu, maybe. Okay, it's a tata with the contingency. Who will get the tata Mogorona because for it, so second security tata. Irahala, hi, Dirahan. Let me say, like, whenever HIV, whenever quick to be. How is so good Dirahale among my family? Can I consider Havanaku? Up until same with so same like me, that's when they get at Junior. So, when I go home to look at the Mozart, sometimes that one of that's why when it cut they accept it. Happy the way the hard culture, and I asked that thing. He saw saying, set Tata in Jana to accept that Kenya up until our mindset. Did a Bamu and a Nalebana, but I need to in Jana, the sons of the skin in the door. So, some of the Tata, then I will think that maybe but I cannot accept that I can get a one way with the other organization. Okay, I think 2 points. I think 1 point is in response to what was said.
gore gongwe batho ba di-lesbian ba tshwanetse gore ka tsela nngwe ba itirela botsotsi. And now I'd like to think of it as kind of when you live in a society that is as complex as ours, that is so discriminating. We keep being pulled back into the that is why she was saying she knows she's lesbian, she's convinced she is, but there are moments of doubt. I put a attack in but because of the pressures of the society in which they live, they start asking themselves those unnecessary questions in mind. And then the other thing is that, I think it was around 2019 when the president said that it baffles him that as a society we have not accepted others. And I was hopeful at the time when the president was saying it, because he was saying it unprovoked. No, it's not for more realistic. Now that gave me a lot of hope. One of the extend the rights to everyone, regardless of their sexual orientation, because that is not in rights are my land. The right to self-determination. For now, I do what I want to look at Lord, have Kaitariake, Avataro Yala Kumositan, and Kumosadi, and Nelly Channel Kudira Java. Kudira Java, I would say, it takes nothing away from me. It's her personal choice, and this is my personal choice. I cannot run my sister's life, and my sister cannot run my life. Well, that is the way that proceeding forward, we need to think of it like that. But it's about time that I think maybe because I'm not so much in touch with a lot of things. I did a curriculum for a curriculum but this kind of sexual orientation, but that education is crucial. It's crucial. We must advocate for inclusion of that kind of education. Awareness so perhaps that education must be extended, but now I still say, and others, I still say that there is a need for leadership. Or you cannot go to Soroe Kota and then ask people in Soroe if we should allow gays and lesbians to get married. No, they will say no. You don't then have to ask them. You have to implement it because nationalities have this is the time how about go tshwanetse gore go be go simolla go bua gore go nyala yaanong a mongwe le mongwe a nne le choice ya gore o nyala mang o nyalwa ke mang kana yang ga bona ga gore menta a tshwanetse gore a ba a lusa sengwe ha ile gore ke decide gore nna ka go nyala monna o mongwe kana khaitsele ya go nyala ke mosadi o mongwe gore The government doesn't lose even tax. Hey, but you know, like they were talking about their own happiness. It's the pursuit of happiness. In the end, one of the fundamental roles of the state or the government is to allow everybody space to pursue their happiness. Hey, it's to allow people to pursue their happiness. I wish I could be in a gay relationship, but I'm walking around and with a woman whom I don't even want, I don't like. That is why I can't relationship it's because you are trying to conform to society when you know deep inside so I think government must take a lead. That is one. Two, I think touch these people of different sexual orientation. They are under a lot of pressures, which are imposed by us as a society and further imposed by government through its laws, and where they would decriminalize something but not legalize it. Like you were saying, this thing has been decriminalized. It creates unnecessary confusion. Wow. If something is decriminalized, then it should be legal. It should be legal. I think we need to push the boundary, and we owe it to our country that as a generation we extend rights to many other people, to others, those people that have been suffering for a long time. Because I think to understand how people are suffering under this context. You take the issue of apartheid or racism. Wow. If you had asked they would have said no. Why should I be equal to a Catholic? They would have asked you that question. But because people understood that in terms of justice, justice is not democracy. Justice is not you don't do that. You simply give people their rights. You don't have to, they don't have to be consented by others. Get right. Thank you.
I think, sorry, make it say, what we're both saying. There is a big question about what are, I guess, civil society organizations within the sector are doing to inform even the target population on the ground, or that mismatch between decriminalization and legalization. But it also begs the question of what exactly is the point of legal recourse, Maharan? Do we go to court just to remove the criminal, or do we go to court with also the mind to seek legal access for everything else? Gerard, how do you about LGBTI persons, for example? I think the two most significant rulings would be the 2017 decrim ruling, 2019 rulings, and the two rulings in 2017 regarding transgender identity. But practically on the ground, it still means nothing for if I'm transgendered and I want to go and change the gender marker on my woman, for example. The loops and holes that I have to go through for me to be able to do that. I sort of get that immigration again. Sorry, I'd like to change this so that you can afford me to now. And it even right now, what it means that Parliament is debating an amendment to the Marriage Act. Personally, even as an advocate, I do not believe, this is my personal belief, not informed by statistics, but informed rather by community observation. I think we stand a better chance of advocating for a new law that legislates marriage of queer people, as opposed to hopping onto the current Marriage Act. The current Marriage Act is a mess, to be honest, and has been debated for years. And this is where another problem is, Maharna, is we are much more comfortable, like legislatively, we're much more comfortable debating a law that exists and altering it and altering it and altering it till it is so bent out of shape it doesn't make sense or apply to anybody in particular, versus scrapping a whole law and introducing a law that is new and informed by current situations. We have it with the Marriage Act, we have it with the Adoption Act, we have it with so many other acts, because a lot of our laws are inherited as is from colonial times. And that's a problem that we have. But even based on countries in the first world, countries where they have marriage equality, greater success has been found when you develop a whole new law, a whole new legal framework for, and that is why in some countries they're very clear that marriage and civil partnerships are not the same. Technically they're not the same. You have the same rights, but they're not technically the same. I think a similarity here, Moharna, is years ago, about maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was an amendment that was made, and I'm not even sure if this was made to the Marriage Act, the breach of promise, something, where if you and I live in cohabitation together, when straight people live in cohabitation together for more than 6 months, they are technically considered to have the same rights as people who are married under mutual property. So for me, the conversation about the legalities of queer persons, how we about decriminalization, how we about the right to gender identification change and stuff like that. How do these changes relate to other existing laws? If I live with my boyfriend for 10 months, for example, are we now considered, because now that we're not illegal, are we also, and we're cohabiting, do we now have the same rights as straight people who are living in cohabitation? Because the honest truth is nobody documents cohabitation. You just live together. The documentation is witness, community witness. People see you living together. That's what you say. But you know me, you are my neighbor. You have seen us living together for 7 years and we've had children together. So would I have the same access to property, most basically to property and everything else, if I lived with a boyfriend and then he died and we've been living together for 5 years and we've accumulated A, B, C, and D? Like, for me, that's where the question is, like, but how practical has been this decriminalization? And how do we move, yes, we can move that conversation to marriage equality, great. But Lerona, as a community, do we understand what marriage equality would mean? Because in a society as a John, linyalo has say, that's what it means legally. But linyalo in Botswana has to go through the 3 rings. Yapato, Yamahadi, and Nikolai. That is the traditional Setswana marriage. And Setswana, if you don't go through the 3 rings, grandpa or whatever, go have a great wedding in Dubai. If you didn't go through the 3 rings, you're not married, you will not be recognized in society. So what would marriage equality mean for us? And how would it add into that? That's why we need to have, when we talk about these conversations, we also want to get married. I feel we also need to have traditional leadership within these conversations. The Khosi, the Khosa, specifically. But how that translates to a practice on the ground. Or does it mean and then tough shit, I can't because now I can't my head. Thank you so much, Lam. That's a great way to end the conversation. And thank you all for your time. Okay, one sentence.
Ba face abuse e dutse wa wena. So ya lo ba hella ba tsa le di drugs. Ka gore ba batla gore ba phike go ka ntse le mo hella zonda family ya ga ba family ya ga ba stigma di le ka ya stigma kan lo hella sai high go tsena ka mo so people are making us
Beautiful clothes. There'll be snacks just outside to take away, and then the admin stuff will try to it by the underneath the little hut. That being said, thank you so much for your time. I hope you put your email clearly there so that we can then share the links with you directly. Thank you.